Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So nice to be with you all here today on this MSG, Men's Spiritual Growth and the Battle. And we're going to talk about one of the biggest battles we are facing right now. It's a culture war that is happening, that is ongoing, and it's important that we know how to understand this and then how to talk about it. I am Man Rentoy, and I have been a teacher for more than 32 years. But the last 7, 8 years, I've spent more time going around the Philippines, reaching out to teachers to talk about character, because that is where the crisis is. um, I have seen how young people have been changing in their mindset, attitude, character. And that's why um, I've spent more time instead of being in the classroom, going around, reaching out to teachers, parents, community leaders to try to convince them, let's make character formation the top priority, because that is where the problem is right now. And one of the battles we're facing is this: the battle for the minds and hearts of people, not just of young people, but of everyone. And so it's important that we are aware of this so that we know how to help the young people make sense of all these things. So I sometimes would talk about woke, wake, wake as in gising, woke as in nagising, and wake as in lamay, because the battle against the mindset, the hearts of young people, the culture war that is going on, if we are not um, aware, and if we do not take part in this battle that is going on, eh, magigising na lang tayo. Pinaglalamayan ang Christian culture and identity that we grew up knowing, understanding, and loving. I'm sure you are all aware of this wokeism, of how it is creeping into mindsets of people. You have heard so much about the need for diversity, inclusion, inclusivity, equity or equality, the gender agenda that we hear a lot of, and then the race battle, the Black Lives Matter, and the cancel culture. All these things we keep on hearing about, reading about, and we need to make sense of them. No, it's very important. So powerful is this culture war, is this wokeism, that in many companies in the US, they even have to assign a point or put a post just for someone to be on top of DEI, that the company is living according to the principles of diversity, inclusivity, and equality or inclusivity or equity. Um, and we are very much affected by that. This is also happening now, even here in the Philippines. So, in talking about wokeism, we need to understand this thing of identity politics, intersectionality, cultural appropriation, power dynamics, safe space, political correctness. A lot of it, in fact, has to do with language, which is not something new. We have been hearing a lot about political correctness in our language. No, you cannot say, "Ay, mga preso, prisoners." Ah, hindi. You have to refer to them as um, persons deprived of liberty. Yan. Hindi pwedeng sabihin uh, short or No, you have to refer to them as vertically challenged people, which at a certain point you and I find already absurd, hilarious, and parang where's common sense there? But all these are very much present in our society today. That's why when you read the newspapers, when you read online articles, uy, kailangan may trigger warnings, warning, this is about suicide. Or you have to be very careful about how you refer to some people. No? Otherwise, you will be accused of that's microaggression. I would sometimes even mention in some talks to teachers of Catholic schools, medyo in the area of LGBT, for example, love wins. We have lost that battle there. Like now we have to be very careful about how we talk about the gays, the lesbians, and the transvestites. We cannot talk about them like as if we are talking of condemned people like that. No, so in fact, what I need to say at the end of this presentation, and I want to say it now to emphasize it, is it's not enough to just know about wokeism. We need to know how to talk about wokeism in a way that people will still continue listening to us. I have to still continue learning on how can I talk about the immorality, for example, of homosexual acts uh, without offending the LGBT people in a way that they will still continue listening to me so that, well, we can continue doing apostolate with them because true, God, Christ died for them too. So um, we need to know, not just to understand what wokeism is, we need to train ourselves on how we can talk about them, how we can talk about these issues in a way that they will continue listening to us. But you and I are troubled at how this wokeism is intruding into our living rooms or into our life. I mean, we wonder why is there such a thing as gender neutral toilets that even malls now have to think of how to install additional toilets for gender neutral. Why did Little Mermaid suddenly become black? I mean, we have been entertained by the Little Mermaid singing those Disney songs as a white. So why suddenly they have to change her to be black? Why do they even have to remake Ghostbusters and cast all women as actors? We sometimes are um, troubled by this. We're distracted by this. I mean, I know some people who veer away from watching Hollywood movies because they cannot stand these things anymore. Like as if there is a checklist. Blacks have to be heroes. The blacks have to cannot be bad. Now we have to have a female James Bond. Now Barbie has to rule the world. Women have to rule. Now there have to be gay characters. It's like a checklist that Hollywood makes. No, that's why we cannot avoid this. The wokeism is very much. It's like being thrust into us, rammed down our throats, and it's not going to slow down because starting 2024 for a movie to be considered for awards, they need to um, satisfy two of the four areas of new requirements. Among them, this, for example, um, the movie to be qualified or to be considered for Oscars should feature a lead or supporting character who is from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. The movie has to have a main storyline that focuses on an underrepresented group in some way. And the movie has to have at least 30% of its cast coming from two or more underrepresented groups. By underrepresented groups, they mean here Asian peoples, Asian people, Hispanic people, Black people, indigenous, Native American people, Middle Eastern people, women. You wonder why women are being classified as um, underrepresented in the movies. LGBTQ plus people, people with disabilities, and other underrepresented race or ethnic groups. So it's not going to end. In other words, what I'm saying is it's here to stay. It's here to continue intruding into our living rooms. If you are like what many families do, that kind of family, they sit down together to watch together. So you look at those descriptions we mentioned, and it looks like it boils down to these two. No? This wokeism is like a championing race and gender. The gender agenda is very strong right now. Um, you cannot even, I mean, I'm sure you've seen those videos of Senate hearings where the expert is being asked, can you define woman? And then they they have a hard time defining it. uh, what happened here? Now they have to refer to biological sex, and then the gender which can be any preference of a person. A few years ago, they said, now there are not just two genders, male, female. Now there are 12 types of gender here: male, female, transgender, gender neutral, non-binary, agender, pangender, agender. One day you wake up and you feel you're not a man, you're not a woman, you have no gender. One day you wake up and you are pangender. All of them together. Gender queer, two spirit, third gender, and all, none, or a combination of these. Teka muna, wait, experts even say, no, there are in fact 127 now to choose from. And then they list them down. Not the experts list them down. So you look at the 127 and you really start wondering yung wake that I referred to earlier. Meron na tayong pinaglalamayan. Common sense. I mean, with all these, parang you're feeling like, what, whatever happened to common sense? I thought these are all supposed to be common sense. Okay, so let me pause. And I'm going to do something different. I'm going to talk to you about wokeism from the point of view of a woke person. Okay? I have to remind you, I am just play acting. I will pretend I am woke, and I will tell you what we woke people believe in, so that you somehow will have a bit of an idea of where these woke people are coming from. Remember what I said? It's not enough to know. We need to learn how to talk to these people, because, and here's something that might surprise you, not all woke people are bad. Some of them, in fact, may be noble people who are really fighting an agenda, fighting for uh, the underprivileged. As what you read earlier, what I showed you about Oscars, at a certain point, you can also say, okay naman ah. I mean, Oscar awards just trying to give representation to those who have been left out, or have been sidetracked. Okay, so here is how we woke people define wokeism. Okay, we are just responding to historical injustices and systemic inequalities that have been taking place for too long in mankind. We woke people just want to address issues related to race, gender, sexuality, and other forms of discrimination. This injustice has to stop. That's why we need you to be woke. Reminder, I am just play acting, right? What we want to do, we woke people, what we are advocating is that you, all of you, become aware. And not just become aware, but to stand with us. We, referring to the underprivileged, the LGBT people, the women who for too long have been like second class to men, uh, the blacks, the Asians. So it aims to foster a more inclusive and equitable society. That is how we woke people will talk. Will say it. We just want inclusivity and equality because there has just been too much discrimination. We are the oppressed, and the rest of the world who are not woke are the oppressors. So, what we are fighting for, we woke people, is for social justice. Inequalities and discrimination that are based on race, gender, sexuality, and other identity markers. And even worse is the intersectionality. A black woman would be more discriminated upon, would have more challenges to face than a black man. So you put in the multiple identities and experiences, and that compounds the effects of discrimination. What we woke people want to make people aware, like you are, is you have to know that you have been privileged, and the privileges that you have in your life of being men, for example, that has been contributing to the systemic inequalities that we, the oppressed, have been undergoing or have been feeling. So it's about time that we think of the marginalized or the oppressed. We need to wake up people. That's why it's called wokeism. It's like we are awoke, we are woke, but we need to wake up all the others. And it's not enough. It's not enough as far as we woke people are concerned. It's not enough that we, for example, do not agree with the oppression that has been happening, the inequality that has been happening. We have to speak up. If we don't speak up, then we become complicit to the injustice and inequality that has been happening, the oppression that has been happening. So much of it has to do with language and microaggressions that we see that has been there, and we need to make people aware. We need safe spaces. We need trigger warnings. It's not enough to know that oppression is happening. You have to speak up. Otherwise, you become complicit. Your silence, your non participation in the activism becomes complicit to the continuing injustice and inequality and oppression that has been happening. That is what it means to be woke. And therefore, wokeism has to challenge systems and institutions that have been uh, part of this systemic oppression that has been happening. And basically, there are two very powerful systems or institutions: faith and family. That's why we woke people would have to challenge faith and family. Faith that has been dictating on how we should live our morality. And then family is the one that dictates on how a person has to be raised up. We need you, people who are not woke, to educate yourself and then to reflect, to think about these things. That's why, to conclude, remember, I'm play acting. Some of you may already be scandalized by what I'm saying. Therefore, we woke people, we are proud, and we do this advocacy with confidence because this is what we are. We are awakened to the needs of others, especially those in the peripheries. We are well informed while you still need to wake up. We are thoughtful. We think of the less privileged. We are compassionate. We are humble. So humble that we even admit that we are the victims. And we are kind because we think of defending those who cannot defend themselves because of race, because of creed, because of gender. All we want to do, we woke people, is to make the world a better place. I end my play, my role playing, and some of you deep inside you may be thinking, this is either something's wrong with this guy, or some of you may actually be thinking, oo nga, being woke does not necessarily mean that they're being diabolic. I mean that that they are like devilish and that they're so immoral. Some of them may actually be really genuinely, sincerely, because of their experience, because of the injustice, unfairness that they may have gone through in their life, they may actually be sincerely trying to fight for some people who are marginalized. And then you look back at Pope Francis, this is what he has been talking about ever since he started his papacy, to go to the peripheries, to go to the poor, to the oppressed, to those who are far from the faith. So, okay, that's a different matter altogether. But let us try to dissect a bit what's wrong with it. Why are we now studying wokeism as a battle that we have to confront and that we have to face? Because, as I said, it's here to stay. It's not just a fad right now, and it's creeping into our living rooms because we all watch movies. We all patronize Hollywood one way or another. Okay, what's wrong with it? Number one is this: the identity politics, like as if what makes a person important is what he belongs to, the oppressor or the oppressed, or blacks or Asians or men or LGBT or straight people. It's like as if that is what makes a person a person. No. um, yes, it matters what group we belong to, what identity, but we learn from our Catholic doctrine that our dignity comes from our being sons and daughters of God, children of God, the only creation of God that He intended for Himself, that He intended to be with Him forever in heaven. That's what makes us uh, men and women of dignity. That's what makes us have that special kind of identity, the identity of a son or daughter of God. That's why that's the problem with wokeism. The other one, the other problem with wokeism is it's like as if the basis for like for gender is how you feel today. I feel that today to be a gender, to be pangender, to be queer, to be today I feel like a man. As that's like making personal experiences and feelings as the arbiter of truth, which does away, therefore, with objective truth, objective morality. That is what's wrong with it. What is wrong with it? The dichotomous thinking that the world is like that. It's between the oppressed and the oppressors, which of course some of you may have already picked up very clearly. This is Marxism reborn. I mean, this is cultural Marxism, like as if the world is divided into two: the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, the rich and the poor, the oppressed and the oppressor, the workers and the. Of course, that's not true. That is not how our reality is. So that is wokeism. Um, as I said, we will not dismiss the people, those who think that they are woke, right away, because it is possible, really, that you can meet someone who is genuinely concerned about fighting for uh, rights of women. It's also true that for too long, um, when we talked about the gays, the lesbians, the transvestites, there is a certain bias at the back of our mind that these are like immoral people right away. Teka muna, Pope Francis would say later on that, I mean, who am I to judge? And he did not say that to give approval to homosexual lifestyle, to give approval to gays, lesbians, and transvestites. The truth simply is, um, only God knows how to read the hearts of men, right? And therefore, there are things that we cannot judge people immediately, easily, um, from the outset. And then now with this distortion by liberal media of the latest pronouncements of the Pope regarding uh, giving blessings to people who may be in irregular situation, or well, the again the same. There is a certain at the back of our mind, sort of what you will call, anong tawag dito, parang negative thinking towards people who are in irregular situations. The divorced people, for example, like as if they are hopeless, separated brethren. Ay, teka muna. Um, we don't know the full story. We don't know how the whole thing evolved. And for all you know, this person that you're dealing with is the victim in the drama, and the person needs our support, our help, our apostolic dealings. We do not just go around condemning people. We cannot condemn anyone. In fact, what comes to my mind is what Saint Josemaria would always say: we are never anti anyone or anti anybody. We have to be always reaching out to people to help them, bring them back to God, bring them closer to God. And Jesus died for everyone, and therefore our interest is to reach out to everyone, even those, I mean, especially those in the peripheries, including those who consider themselves as woke, even those who consider themselves as part of this wokeism, that they have embraced it totally in their life. Well, I have reached 6:46 in the evening. Father JP said it would be better to go to the Q&As instead of spending the whole time giving lecture. And so I think um, we will better understand this whole idea of wokeism, this drama of wokeism, the battle that we are facing right now. If we answer questions, okay? And so I would like to open the floor for questions or clarifications that you may want to ask regarding wokeism. My When I give this presentation, I usually would segue into, this is the reason why now more than ever we need to work on the character of our young people. because they're the ones, especially, who are very badly affected by this. I mean, you and I may not be as affected because we have different experiences, and our experiences may not be like what this so-called oppressed people may have gone through. But let me remind you, the young people are especially the ones who are very much affected by this. This battle, in fact, that is raging regarding wokeism is the battle for hearts and minds, especially of the young people. So very important that we make sure that the young people understand this and do not fall into that trap. Um, I know this has to be very practical. There's one question that always comes out when I talk about wokeism. What then do we do? How do we make sure that the young people, our children especially, do not fall into that trap? One is to make sure that these young people grow up to be very pro-life, that they are not just going to be pro-life, but they will stand up for life. And hand in hand with that, everything else that we stand for in the Catholic faith. We have to make sure that they have concern for the poor, for the needy, for other people, that they grow in empathy, in kindness, that in the house, it's a haven of kindness and caring, and that those young people in your house will grow up with that kind of mindset. So no matter how much this wokeism will try to manipulate them into fighting for only the blacks, fighting only for the oppressed, fighting only for the gays, the lesbians, and the transvestites, that they will fight for anyone, because everyone is redeemed by the very blood of Christ, that everyone is someone that has been put beside us by God to take care of, to do good to. Okay, so we can answer questions. Mike has a comment here. I just want to ask if non-woke people are also obliged to give emotional validation to thoughts, experiences, emotions of marginalized people, and whether or not this validation is agreeing with, say, gender theory. Lately, we observe these things affect national and organizational policies. Could this emotional validation be the trap? It's part of it. That's why I mentioned to you earlier, the part of the wokeism is that you cannot just be silent, otherwise you become complicit to this oppression that is going on. And that's why it's very important. As I mentioned earlier, I myself, I'm still in the process of really learning and learning well. How can I talk about these things without, how can I talk about these things in a way that the LGBT, for example, will still continue listening to us, will still continue dialoguing with us. Otherwise, they will shut us down right away. Okay, so with a lot of charity, with a lot of that zeal for the burning zeal for souls that Saint Josemaria talks a lot about, the apostolate of friendship and confidence, that our friendship does not end when the person declares himself to be gay or lesbian, and but that we continue to be friends, and that we continue to dialogue in a way that they will continue listening to us. I want to encourage you to explore, for example, how Catholic Voices, it's a group in England, that is how they, in fact, the group came here to the Philippines before the pandemic to train some people on how to go about dialoguing with people, how to talk with people in a way that they will continue listening to us and continue talking to us. I will not really be able to say um, this is how you do it. I'm still also in the process of learning how to go about talking about these things in a way that people will listen. So, the question of Rod, wokeism, the effect of absolute relativism. It is one of, in fact, there is an interview with somebody in Franciscan Steubenville, um, in Franciscan University, um, where precisely she talks about this. Wokeism is like a confluence of many isms that we have seen in these past decades. Feminism, that is also part of the relativism. It is an effect, but it is just one of the, like, how do you call this, consequences of the absolute relativism that we saw. It's very damaging, yes, and we have not seen the end of it yet. um, what we can only do is, here in the Philippines, we have to make sure we do not go the way of US and other Western countries where, for example, abortion is the norm. I mean, that it's the right of the woman. That is part of absolute relativism, right? That they don't even want to call it abortion anymore. They call it women's reproductive rights, or they even call it women's reproductive health. I mean, you really wonder what on earth is, why health? What health are they talking about? This is murder. But that is it. That is precisely because of the years of that relativism that has reigned in their culture, in their society. Wokeism is mainly an offshoot of Western extreme left ideology. In your opinion, to what extent has wokeism affected ordinary Filipinos' day-to-day lives? Are the educational institutions already affected by this? We are beginning to be affected because we're very much dependent on Western culture for our movies, and we are very much Westernized in many ways. And we're just so blessed and so lucky that we have a constitution, for example, that enshrines the right to life. I mean, the protection of the human life from conception, or that the people like Bernie Villegas, who crafted the 1986 Constitution, 1987 Constitution, made sure that we defend marriage, that divorce is not there in our Constitution. I mean, that the Constitution protects marriage. And that's the reason why we are the target of this Western ideologies, what Pope Francis refers to as the colonization. Um, so it's beginning to come here. It doesn't help that here in the Philippines, one of the biggest celebrities, Vice Ganda, who has 6 of the 10 biggest blockbuster, biggest movies in the Philippines, um, is probably the most visible celebrity, with a television show Monday to Saturday, and then another one on Saturday evening. So he's probably the most visible celebrity, and he's the champion of LGBT agenda in the Philippines. So it's coming in, and if we do not watch out, the Senate, Congress, the legislators are just about to pass one is the divorce bill, and then the other one is the gender equality bill. But then really, it's not gender equality. It's more of giving rights to gays and lesbians, and the right to be able to adopt children and to get to have a same-sex union and things like that. No, it's there, it's here, and unfortunately, DepEd, for example, the public schools are not uh, ready to face these challenges. Um, I have spoken to more than 100,000 teachers in all these years that I've been giving teacher training, and I tell you they need formation, even in as basic thing. For example, as this, we we have to admit it. There is a failure, for example, in teacher formation in many places. And it's one of the biggest challenges that we, in fact, face. That's why um, we need to push this to give formation to people, um, to teachers in a special way, because they have multiplier effect. They are in charge of thousands of students, of young people, and yet there is that problem there, the crisis of formation, even among the teachers. And I don't just actually refer to public school teachers. I even refer to even teachers of Catholic schools. So it's one of those things that well, people have to be working on, the formation of people who are in charge of the care of souls. What else? I I don't think I've answered fully all the questions that have been posted here, um, because it's not a simple black and white case that we have in front of us right now. What I need to highlight is the fact that do not dismiss someone who is claiming to be woke, because it is really possible that there can be someone who is genuinely interested in fighting for the rights of the oppressed, the gays, the lesbians, and the transvestites, and the or the divorced people who for too long, I think, there is that stigma also, no? That when you're dealing with someone who is in an irregular situation, immediately there is at the back of our mind that failed marriage. Ay, teka muna. They need support. They need Christ. They need somebody to listen to them, and then to help them get back, normalize or regularize their situation, because I know people like that who really also genuinely want to go back to the faith. I mean, to really fix up their situation as far as their relationship with God is concerned. Same thing happens with some gays, some lesbians, some transvestites. Some of them may really be needing somebody to help them, who will listen to them and who will understand them, and then will help them still be able to reach their ultimate end of being united with God forever in heaven.